Good morning. This is the Blaine's World Show, and we're on each week on Facebook Live, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you can get more information and find out about previous and past shows and future shows at our website, which is blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on cool stuff that's happening in Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce for a second, third time, Edwin Arnaudin. How to pronounce Edwin Arnaudin?
Arnaudin.
Arnaudin, not even close.
Yeah.
Edwin Arnaudin and James Rosario, a local journalist and film critics. And guys, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends on Facebook and anybody else watching this. So I should mention that Edwin is a North Carolina native growing up in Brevard. He's worked in public libraries for 5 years while writing on the side before pursuing a full-time journalism career in 2013. He has freelanced for Las Vegas, the Asheville Citizen-Times, and Mountain Express, and has been a full-time staff writer for Mountain Express since 2017. That year, he started Asheville Movies with Bruce Steele, launching Asheville Stages, for local theater and music coverage site in 2018. James is a writer, record collector, wrestling nerd, and tabletop gamer, living with his family in Asheville. He is a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association, North Carolina Film Critics Association, and contributes to Daily Circa, Razor.
Daily Orca.
Orca, okay, I'll wear my glasses. Razor Cake Magazine, Mountain Express, and Asheville Movies. And I'm really excited to have you guys because we won't be talking about a lot of stuff you've done in the past, but today's the show we want to focus on the Oscars, which is coming up next week. And I know, Edwin, you and I talked about this last year. So this is the first time, James, we welcome you to the show, and hopefully we'll make this a somewhat regular basis. Before we even talk about that, though, the question I always ask, and I'll ask you, James, first. As a kid growing up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay, and when you grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, excuse me, did you always know you wanted to be a movie critic?
I don't know that I always knew, but I remember reading Roger Ebert in the newspaper from a very young age, and I was always kind of fascinated with film criticism. I didn't know that you could just do it. I didn't know you were just allowed to do it. It took me a while to figure that out.
What was the very first movie you ever saw? Do you remember?
Just talking about this the other day. We watched, my wife and daughter and I watched E.T. the other day, and that's the first movie that I remember seeing in a movie theater for sure.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I always remember E.T. because I took my daughter and she kept going into the seats. She was just like 2.5 years old and the seats popped up and, I had to hold her down. So it's funny you remember E.T. But even before E.T., you mentioned your daughter. What was the first movie as a kid you saw? Do you remember?
Well, I mean, I saw E.T. when it came out.
Right. But you weren't a kid. You weren't a kid then.
I was 4 or 5.
Oh, you were. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So it was one of my daughter's first film as well. Edwin, the same thing in terms of as a kid you grew up where in this area?
Yeah, mostly in Brevard.
Okay. And same thing too as a kid. Did you know you wanted to be a movie guy?
It was kind of similar to what James is saying. It's like you see people doing these jobs and you don't really know that you can do them, or you have no idea how to get into them. And but yeah, Roger Ebert was this kind of larger than life figure. Siskel and Ebert, we didn't have cable, but every once in a while some syndicated Siskel and Ebert stuff would fly through, or as you start learning about movies and subscribing to Entertainment Weekly or whatnot, you see those names or articles get syndicated in the Citizen Times. And then yeah, so for me, it was also Ebert, and then also our late colleague Tony Kiss. And I think I embarrassed him when I told him that he was my local Roger Ebert. He was just like, "Oh, just get out of here." He just didn't like to hear time sensitive stuff like that. But he was a legend. He was seeing all the Asheville movies and writing about them in his accessible, folksy Tony Kiss way. So those two guys kind of showed that it was possible, but. I don't know. I guess it was high school before I really started thinking, okay, it's out there. I don't know how to get it, but it's out there.
And same question too. Do you remember the very first film you ever saw?
I don't remember it, but I know my parents took me to see An American Tail when
Okay.
I was maybe 1.5, and I don't remember it, but I do remember watching um, Return of the Jedi on television at home. This must have been 1988, I think, when I was 4, but I remember some scenes from that. So that feels like a very early movie core memory.
Okay. Now we've gone back into history. Now let's bring it to the current. And since the show is going to be on next week, let's talk about this year's films and a whole bunch of ones that are being nominated. And I guess what I'll do, guys, is just start out with, I guess, maybe some of the minor categories, and we'll go into some of the more major categories. And most of these minor categories, I've never seen any of them, but we'll start off short film animated. And I guess what I'll do, James, I'll just rotate between the two of you. So Edwin, short film animated. I haven't seen any of these. I don't think. Your choice.
So this is what I think is going to win.
Right. Do it that way. That's good. Yeah.
Um, well, it's I think what's going to win is the least favorite one for both me and James. It's this War is Over movie that's got John Lennon and Yoko Ono in the title, and it is beyond hokey, but I think it's just gonna be what the Academy goes for this year, unfortunately. But it was, I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't the worst of these 15 shorts we saw, it was darn close.
And by the way, feel free to do that too. So that's one you think will win. Do you have a favorite of those?
Yeah, my favorite was 95 Senses, which was this really beautiful story of a Southern man in prison kind of thinking about his life. And it's actually directed by the people who made Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay.
And it's got Tim Blake Nelson's voice. So it was just a really affecting, soulful film that's got kind of a unexpected gut punch to it as well.
And James, the same question, even before I ask it though. How often do you find yourself agreeing versus disagreeing with Edwin?
That's a good question. We mostly agree. Um, we sometimes agree to sort of different levels. But usually we generally like and dislike the same things. Sometimes he likes it more, I like it more, but we're I can't think of a really a great example of where the two of us have just been totally at odds.
Mhm.
Um,
That's cool. And in this category, do you have a favorite, James?
I mean, my favorite is 95 Senses. My answer on this one is exactly, I'm just going to echo what Edwin said. So 95 Senses, I think, was a pretty amazing little short film, but I think that the War is Over, uh, John Lennon and Yoko Ono one is probably going to win, and it's not good.
Okay. Short film live action. Again, I'll start with you, James, first. Out of those, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think the Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, um, should win and will win. I think if it doesn't win, there's just something wrong with the Academy, and they should all just go home and retire. Um, is the other ones there was some decent stuff in there, but nothing compared to this, which was it was a Wes Anderson movie too, Wes Anderson short. So it's just time. It's time for him to win something.
And since you talked about Wes Anderson, um, what's the other one that's out now? I just saw it's on the cable. Um, I
Asteroid
mean,
City.
yeah, did you see that, James?
Yeah,
And you liked it?
I did like it. Yeah, I think it was one of his better efforts in a few. I generally like. I don't dislike any of his movies, so, but I think Asteroid City was better than some of his more recent efforts.
And Edwin, I'll go back to the same category. Do you agree with what James said?
To the letter. Yeah, I feel like it's Wes Anderson's my guy. He's been this is 8th nomination. It's been nominated across categories, and the fact that he's got this beautiful short film with Benedict Cumberbatch and Ben Kingsley and
Wow.
all these stars, and it's just ambitious, colorful. It's everything he does well put together, and the fact that he's nominated is pretty special, and that he could finally win his first Oscar for a short film is encouraging and might encourage other filmmakers to be like, hey, not everything we do has to be a feature-length film. Maybe I can tell a short story instead. So I think it could be the start of something really big in movies.
And I appreciate the recommendation because the Anderson film, I wasn't going to see Asteroid City, but maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
What you said is interesting. He's unlike you guys. He's not been my favorite. I just, yeah, they kind of, I guess, get him or don't get him. And if you don't get him,
It's
all
a
the
long
stuff
set.
is
Yeah.
all the stuff is relatively similar, somewhat, it seems like.
Yeah.
By the way, just change subject for a quick second, talk about short films. Did you guys see the Jennifer Lopez film?
Is that about her
Yeah. The
winning the
love,
Super Bowl, or
no,
was
the Love Me or something.
oh,
You know what I'm talking about? You haven't seen it? She
mm-mm.
does a 60-minute film. It's out there, and she spent all this money to finance it herself. She spent like $20 million to finance it herself, and she sings, and it's a very weird film. So I didn't enjoy that, but that's one you missed. Okay, feel free to miss it. Documentary. I love documentaries. And by the way, since we're on that subject, short films and documentaries, short subjects, why don't you give a shout out? Let me ask you guys both, where do you see these films? Do you see them at home, or where do you see them?
I think it's probably the same for both of us. We saw them at home. We got screening links from um I'm not sure, who do we get those screening links from exactly?
For the short films?
Yeah.
It's like it's some company called Shorts TV, maybe, I think, but they've been kind of in charge of getting the short films out to theaters like Grail, and more local theaters used to do it, but since we're critics, we get to see them at home first so we can recommend or whatnot and help get the word out a little bit for Grail. But the common people need to go to the Grail to see it. But then that means we didn't get to see it on the big screen. Like we saw it on our home screens or our laptops or however, or maybe on our phones in the gym or something like that. It's like I mean, we're doing what we can to see them as fast as we can and as honestly as we can.
Well, let me ask you that just a personal opinion in terms of seeing a film. So you can see it at the Grill. We'll give a shout out to them, great local theater.
Mhm.
But also, Fine Arts has lots of films you can see stuff at. You have preference as to where you're going to see a film. You could see it at a theater. You could see it at home. You could see it elsewhere. Do you have a preference as to where you want to see a film?
Um, I always prefer to see something in the theater if possible, but my schedule doesn't allow me to get out very often. But there's nothing like seeing a movie in the theater. And as Edwin knows, I'm a weird popcorn fanatic. So going out to the movies and loading up a big bucket of popcorn with butter and watching a movie in the dark is one of the best things in the world. Unfortunately, I don't get to do it that often, but but because of us being critics, we do get to see a lot of stuff at home. And I got a pretty big TV, so second best.
Yeah.
And how about like audiences? Does that affect you positively or negatively when you're in a theater with audiences?
Yeah, it doesn't I don't think it affects me at all. I mean, honestly, it doesn't affect me, but I prefer, and this may sound weird, but I prefer a theater to be more on the empty side,
I was going to say
just because
that.
I can, stretch out and, you know, just be a little bit more comfortable. But as far as enjoying a movie, full theater, empty theater, what it doesn't matter to me.
Just back to theaters, and it just still bugs me that too many still are on their phones, when they're watching a film, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, you agree, Edwin? The worst.
Yeah, well, I just have I just have a problem with people in general. So like when they're in theaters and they can't check themselves at the door. They have to keep talking. They have to be on their phones, just acting like people aren't around. I find it really disrespectful. So, and inevitably, if I'm not sitting in the very back row, someone behind me is going to be talking or kicking or doing some shenanigans, and I just can't handle that. So I'm very strategic about where I sit. And that's why I like whenever James and I and the other area critics get to have these private advanced critic screenings. You think Grail, Fine Arts, Carolina, and it's just 6 or 8 of us, and we can spread out and we get the full experience without any yahoos yammering around or shining their bat signal all over the place.
I agree with you
But
completely.
it's yeah, it's kind of frustrating that way. I think COVID might have really chopped the manners out of the movie going public, and I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know. I guess if we ever get a Alamo Draft House, people can come in and get kicked out if they use their phones. So that could be a good perk.
Good deal. Back to the list. I'm trying to think, did we talk about documentary short
Documentary
subject?
short, yeah.
That's where we were at. Yeah.
Right. And and you guys said, what was your favorite on that?
Oh, we haven't yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. So Edwin, your pick on that one.
So the one I think is going to win is The Last Repair Shop. It's kind of a Los Angeles set music repair story. It's about 20 minutes too long, but people love it, whatever. But my personal pick would be the ABCs of book banning, which is also a little shaggy, but I like the subject of these kids being handed books that have been challenged or banned from public libraries and school libraries, and asking them like, oh, well, what do you think about this book about gay penguins? And they're like, there's nothing wrong with this. Why are people getting upset about it? So it was kind of fun, and James and I are both recovering public librarians, so we're kind of have been on the front lines of that business. But I do think this is one of the categories where we differ a little bit. So I'll let James speak up.
And your
Well,
thought, James?
I,
Yeah.
I do think The Last Repair Shop is going to win. Um, I did like the ABCs of book banning quite a bit, actually. I mean, I didn't love it. I didn't love any of these documentaries, but I'm torn as far as what I want to win. I'm actually torn between. I did like the ABCs, but I also like the one about the two grandmothers, and I don't want to butcher how to pronounce it, but Nene and Waipo,
That sounds
I
good.
think, which is about these two. This man has the filmmaker has, he's got two sets of grandparents, and then his two grandmothers were, widows. They lived together, and it's just this really sweet little documentary about kind of their daily lives and stuff. And there's a lot of really funny and endearing moments. I don't think it has a chance of winning. But I also didn't mind the Island in Between, which is a brief history lesson on this small island that sits between Taiwan and China. That's sort of been on the strategic area, military spot, between the conflicts between those two countries, like historically. And I just didn't know anything about it whatsoever. So I like things that teach me about stuff. So just the informative nature of that one was also enjoyable. But, if I had to pick what I really want to win, it would be the ABCs of book banning. But I think The Last Repair Shop's going to win.
Will any of these wind up on streaming services, or do they all wind up on streaming?
A few
sure
are there already.
I
Yeah.
think most of them, well, I don't know about most, but some of them definitely are available to stream already.
Yeah, I think Last Repair Shop and Nine A and Waipo are on Disney Plus, and then the others might be free because like one of them was maybe a New York Times or New Yorker one, so I think that's probably for free. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one has more available than a lot of the categories.
Just a favor, if I can ask you guys, if somewhere down the road, it'd be really cool if you could put in one of your publications which are on streaming and what they're on. Like you always put, which is really cool, the new stuff out there. But I'd love to be able to say, hey, if you want to see documentaries, go here where we can find them. So something that'd really be cool. Visual effects, do you have a favorite there?
Oh, I've got a big favorite here.
Is
I not only should Godzilla -1 win, but I love that movie so much. I think it should have been nominated in every category.
no, are you being facetious or did you really
No,
enjoy
he's
it?
not.
No, I love it. I love it. And
I missed
I
it.
think I think it's a shoe-in to win. If it doesn't win again, like I'm just done with this whole thing. But I mean, The Creator wasn't a great movie, but it did have really great visual effects. The other ones are just, just nothing special. there's nothing new in any of the other movies in the category. And Godzilla is just I just I loved watching it, and I love everything about it. So
Edwin,
that's my
same
pick.
thing? Edwin?
Well, I think Godzilla should win. I think it's like the people's choice. There's just so much excitement from folks around this one, but I really think the creator is going to win. It's been winning a lot of guild stuff. I think there's one Visual Effects Society, it won that. So that's where I'm putting my money. Again, I'm with you, James, on kind of the quality of the film. It was kind of it fell off pretty quickly,
Mhm.
but the
It was good for a while,
consistency.
and then it just went.
Yeah,
"Meow."
yeah, I think they just didn't know how to finish it.
Mhm.
Now, what's exciting about the next category is finally there are some films, some stuff in it that I've seen, film editing. So now I know a bunch of these films, and that's quite a category of films that have been nominated. Your call on that, Edwin, film editing.
This is where Oppenheimer starts its big run, I think. And yeah, these are all good films. These are all Best Picture nominees. 4 out of the 5 are in my top 10
Oh, really?
for the year. But you know, this is another one where I feel, well, I don't know. As much as I prefer Killers of the Flower Moon to Oppenheimer, but I do think Oppenheimer is its pacing was so good for a 3-hour film. It just kept moving. And so I feel like the editing was so key to that. So I think Oppenheimer will win and should win.
And your call, James?
I can't disagree with anything that Edwin said, although I'm going with the well, it's not really a dark horse, but I'm going with Killers of the Flower Moon on this. I have issues with Oppenheimer. The editing was good. I'm not knocking it in that sense at all. I personally liked the way Flowers of the Killer Moon was put together more.
Mhm.
I think there's a good chance Oppenheimer will win, but it's so neck and neck for me on my prediction that I'm just gonna go with the underdog.
Gotcha.
And if I can ask you guys, the next category, what exactly is production design? Edwin?
So my interpretation of that is the set building mostly. So just sort of the world that these characters inhabit. So usually it's tactile. Usually it's um, building sets and props and all that. But I guess sometimes I don't know. I feel like Avatar 2 might have been nominated in this last year, which was kind of bizarre because it was all computer generated, but there was still a lot of thought put into what was filling that world. So is that kind of your take on it, James?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much sets and props.
Mhm.
That's the short answer. That's if asked, that's what it's yeah. Keep it simple. That's
Well,
what it is.
and what film would you call for that?
I think Barbie.
Yeah.
I think Barbie's just got so much and just you know there's just it's so unique compared to the other ones. I mean, Poor Things has a lot of uniqueness as well, I think, but I think I think Barbie should have been nominated in more categories, perhaps, but for the ones that I think it will win, I think this is one of them.
Okay. And do you agree, Edwin?
I think it's going to come down to Barbie and Poor Things, but I think, and this is one where I feel like it could go either way, which I like. I feel like last year there was everything was sewn up. There's maybe 2 that were unknown, but this is one where it could be either way. But I think Poor Things is going to win. I was just really taken, and I think it should. I was really taken by just the um, creativity going on. It felt like the filmmakers were big fans of Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Buñuel. There's just a lot of surreal influences going on. You kind of couldn't take your eyes off of the scenery.
Okay. And which ties into, it's funny how the categories flow together. So cinematography, talking about, the look of a film. Out of those films, Edwin, what would you say is your favorite? Or when you think of win?
Well, my favorite from this is Killers of the Flower Moon. I just think it's a beautifully lensed film, but I think this is another technical category that Oppenheimer is pretty assured of winning.
Okay, James?
Yep. All the way with that. That's
should-
exactly what I think too.
I should keep tabs on this, but it looks like Oppenheimer's going to be getting, at least according to you guys, a bunch of awards here. And I have to say, I still haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for it. And any film over 3 hours, I'm not going to see in the theater, so I refuse to that.
Bring back intermissions. If they brought back intermissions, you would go, because then you'd have a break. You could take a restroom break, get some more snacks,
Get more popcorn,
Why
right?
not? Yeah.
Good thought. Costume design. Do you have a favorite, James?
A favorite is, I think, for me, my favorites are probably between Poor Things and then to a slightly lesser extent Killers of the Flower Moon. But I can see Oppenheimer winning in this one too, honestly.
Okay. Edwin?
I think Poor Things will win and should win. I think Barbie's got a shot, but I saw someone make a point that so much of it takes place in the real world where there's not a lot of fun costume design. But when you're in Barbie land, it's like, whoa, look at all this wild imaginative stuff. And I think a lot of it is really lovingly recreated from actual Barbie costumes. So I don't know. I would not mind at all if that won. I like all 5 of these films quite a bit. I mean, I was a big champion of Napoleon, even though most people kind of hated it. But yeah, Poor Things for me on this one.
Okay, I haven't seen Napoleon yet either, but I look forward to seeing that. Makeup and hairstyle. Do you have a favorite, Edwin?
Let's see. I mean, favorite on this one is Poor Things. I think if you see Willem Dafoe's chopped up face, you're like, whoa, how'd they do that? And there's a bunch of other weird stuff going on too. But I think this is going to be one of those boring wins where Maestro wins, even though it got kind of buried publicly for being kind of a stereotypical, Jewish nose that they put on Bradley Cooper, but it was pretty convincing. And I think the black and white really smoothed it out, maybe not so much in the color side. So I don't know. I don't think Maestro is going to win anything else, but I think it's going to win this one.
And his hair styling is pretty cool in that too. He looked to me like Bernstein,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
thought it
you can look like him, but that can only get you so far.
right. And James, do you have a favorite in that?
I would like to see Poor Things win this one. But like Edwin, I could see them throwing Maestro a bone in this category. I'd like to take the opportunity to just mention how much I also like Society of the Snow. I don't think it will win, but if it's a hard movie to watch, but if you can get through it, it's pretty gnarly story. But it's not on this Oscar list very many times. Is this the only time it is? No, it's on there a couple other times.
International feature for
International,
sure,
yeah.
but maybe that's
But
it.
yeah, I just feel like it just was kind of maybe underseen and maybe should have got a little bit more notice.
Mhm.
But I don't think it'll win in either of the categories. But I just wanted to say,
Give
check
a
it
shout
out
out.
if you dare. But I think Poor Things will win. But if Maestro is going to win anything, it'll be this.
And the sound category, do you have any thoughts on that, James?
I think this is going to be an Oppenheimer win. Some of these other ones, I just don't. I just looking at the list and reorganizing my thoughts. I don't really see it going anywhere but Oppenheimer.
And James? Excuse me, Edwin? Yeah.
I agree. I think I would not be surprised if the Zone of Interest wins this, though. I'm not betting that it will, but that's not a movie I liked. I thought it was very obvious and very one note. It probably should have been a short film too. But the sound design is haunting. It's effective. It's top quality. So if it was gonna, if once we get to international feature and I can make my case for my favorite film in that category, if you could, make sure that Zone of Interest did not win that and it won this instead, and then my favorite film in that category won, I would not. I would take that deal. I'm saying, but I do think Oppenheimer is going to win this one as well.
Next category, I find an interesting one, original song, in that I find it interesting. As a kid, I knew like all the songs to all the movies. It was always a big deal.
Mhm.
And now it doesn't seem necessarily the big deal it used to be, So I'm kind of lost in that category. You have any thoughts on that, James?
Um, this is the category this is my least favorite category, always. I think the reason it's there is just to give the ceremony like some
Right.
pizzazz, Um, and it's just not anything that I don't notice the songs in the movies,
Exactly.
It's like, wait, well, where was that? I don't even remember that. But I mean, I think I'm Just Ken from Barbie has a shot. I think it's just, I don't know enough about these songs to really make an informed decision. I just kind of want it to win because it's just a goofy, funny song.
Edwin, do you know anything about the songs?
Most of them, yeah. I did. I saw all these movies. Am I humming the songs the next day? In Barbie, I was. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good songs in Barbie. Um, I think it's going to be the other one. I think it's going to be What Was I Made For? That's the Billie Eilish song. She just won a bunch
Okay,
of
yeah.
Grammys for it too. So I think, as fun as I'm Just Ken is, I think that if the song about the dude from Barbie wins best song, I just think people are gonna there'll be think pieces for years, and
Yeah,
we will never escape it. So for
that's
just
true,
for
but
that alone,
that's just, I don't know, that's interesting in itself, though.
it is. It is. Yeah, just the funny masculine message hidden between these. But yeah, I'm totally with you on just this category. I think the last time that I was looking forward to a performance. Well, I mean, I am looking forward to I'm Just Ken, and I hopefully Ryan Gosling will get to be part of it, or they'll get some other goofy celebrities. But it was probably In the Shallows from the Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, A Star Is Born. I thought that was really well done and deserved to win. But I mean, back in the day, you had the South Park movie Blame Canada, where they brought Robin Williams out to sing it, and that was so good. I watched that every once in a while. So I kind of miss the days of I don't know, like you said, more memorable songs and films instead of just contractual obligations.
The one you mentioned, did did they win that year, the Bradley
They
Cooper
did.
song?
They
Yeah, I
did.
mean
Yeah.
that was, just great song. Original score, does any one of those catch your attention, Edwin?
Yeah, they're all pretty good. I'm this is John Williams' last score for the Indiana Jones one, which just seems kind of, yeah, whatever. It's
Right.
love John Williams, love the Indiana Jones theme, but I don't know how many times we need to hear it. And then here's a chance to honor the late great Robbie Robertson for one of maybe his best ever film scores for Killers of the Flower Moon. But I think it's going to be Oppenheimer. I think I mean, the music propelled that movie forward. It was key to its pacing, and I won't be mad if it wins.
And James, any thoughts from you on that category?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm a lifelong Indiana Jones fan, but I don't think that has a chance of winning, and I don't necessarily think that it should, but I just, I love that music so much. But Edwin mentioned the Killers of the Flower Moon, um, and Robbie, and I think I'm predicting that one. I'm predicting that one. And
That'd
I
be
mean,
great.
if anything, it's just as a kind of a tribute, kind of thing.
You have a prediction, James, on international feature film?
Yeah, Perfect Day is better win. Um, I mean, I wish there were more international features scattered throughout every
Mhm.
Oscars. Like 9 times out of 10, like my favorite movies of the year are always international features, almost always. Um, so I want more and more and more international features. I want more people to see them. I want them to be recognized more by American audiences. But this year, I didn't dislike any of these movies necessarily, but Perfect Days, I just loved.
Okay,
So,
that's the one that's just out now, right? I think I just saw it.
uh,
Yeah, it looks so good. I
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen it yet. And
it's pretty great.
yeah,
Yeah.
Edwin, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I would love for Perfect Days to win. It was in my top 10. I think James and I both gave it A's basically. And um yeah, but I mean, but I do think this is going to be the zone of interest winning, which is kind of strange. It's a British filmmaker making a German language film, but and then Perfect Days is a German filmmaker making a Japanese film. So the lines get blurred and you don't know what country you're in. But to echo James' thought, I mean, this was a really strong year for international film and for Japan specifically. They had 4 great films that probably all should be nominated, but the dumb way that this system, I don't know, Blaine, if you're familiar with how these films get nominated, but in this category, each country selects one film to represent them. And so, Japan picked Perfect Days, which I think is their best, but they also had Monster from Koreeda, which James and I both loved, the Godzilla film, and then the Miyazaki film, The Boy and the Heron, which is in the animated, and they're all 4 really good films. And it just stinks that they can only pick one when I think, I just don't think Japan should be, or any country should be penalized for having a strong year. That's just not what celebrating movies is about.
And
Agree 100%.
talking about something that James has said also, I really liked earlier when he talked about documentaries and documentary feature. One of the things you said, James, which I really liked, I love that category because you can learn something, stuff you don't know about. And so since you mentioned that, or I mentioned what you said earlier, in the documentary category, do you have a favorite?
I did not care for most of these documentaries. And I did not see To Kill a Tiger yet. I haven't, that's, I think, the one movie on this whole list that I have not seen. Um, I think that 20 Days in Mariupol is gonna win. That's what I think.
Mhm.
But it just I don't think it was a strong year for documentary features.
How about your thoughts, James?
I
Edwin, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
right. I think that's going to win too. It's about, but I'm telling you, I've not seen any of these 5 films because it just feels like pulling teeth. It feels like homework. I just don't want to do it. And
I didn't finish all of them.
no, I've heard that 20 Days in Mariupol is very powerful, but even my buddy Brian, who's been to Ukraine on aid missions a couple times, he's like, that was hard to watch, and where is the big crowd pleasing film in here? I really thought the Michael J. Fox documentary was going to be in here.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a shoe in to
What?
win, and
And I
it's not even
loved it too.
nominated. Yeah, everybody loved it. It was
Yeah, oh,
so.
wow.
I just think documentary filmmaking is so exciting, and there's so many like, new, and I mean it's a field where minorities can really shine, and women and people of color can get a chance to make their first films. It's much harder on the feature side, and then we're giving these 5 really depressing films and no really exciting. There's no Summer of Soul, there's no Still, there's no American Symphony. There's films that people have actually seen and want to see and want to think about. These films, you see them and you kind of wish you hadn't in a way.
Yeah, that's one way to put it for sure.
James mentioned something interesting. I'll ask both of you the question. So when you're viewing films, do you ever stop watching a film halfway through or just walk out on it?
I rarely do. I almost always finish what I start.
Mhm.
With these documentaries though, I was kind of getting down to crunch time. Like I've got 10 more movies to watch before like it's a race for me every year to see all of the
Yep.
movies.
Mhm.
And I got a little ways into to some of these and I was like, I got too much else. I'm gonna turn this off. But it's
Edwin,
very rare that I actually do that.
you ever walk
I
out on Edwin, you ever walk out on a film?
Super rare. I did my first theatrical walkout earlier or in 2023 when I lasted an hour into the Haunted Mansion remake, and I hadn't laughed once. And then I I was by myself, and it was late, and I was in the back row, and I pulled up my phone, and I was like, wait a second. I checked the name of the screenwriter, and I had hated her 5 other movies, and I just thought, I got stuff to do tomorrow. I just don't want to be out this late, just miserable for another hour. So I just left. But that was the first time in my life I'd done that in a theater. At home, it's much easier. You know, if something's coming out in a theater, we want to give it a fair shake, and we want to see it all the way through so that we can recommend it or not, you know, and then we can say, like, well, it was kind of a chore to sit through, and that might be your experience too. We just want to offer the critic side of that. But if it's something we're just watching for pleasure, I think James and I are probably the same way about this. You know, there's no shame in bailing on it if it's not working. There's so many movies out there. Life is short. If something's not working for you after 20 minutes, I think Ken Henke was saying, told me, like, just to get out of there. You know, it's kind of like reading a book. If you're having 20 pages in of a book and it's just not grabbing you, move on to the next one. No shame. You know,
I should start doing that more. Like thinking back to like all the movies that I watched this last year and the year before. These last 2 years, I've actually started keeping a list of all the movies that I
yeah,
watched.
yeah.
And just looking at it's like almost 200. It's like I could have saved days of time by cutting some of these out. I do sometimes enjoy writing bad reviews.
Yes.
But oftentimes if I hate a movie, I just won't even bother to review it. So why bother to watch it? And
What my wife
that's kind of where I'm getting.
What my wife and I do, it's kind of cool. Sometimes even within 5 minutes, she'll turn to me and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it? Now, if I give it less than 5, and if she gives it less than 5, we're out of it. So I never used to do that. But it's like you said, it saved a lot of watching bad movie time or stuff we weren't interested in.
Yeah.
Animated feature, I have to say, I don't think I've seen any of these. Um, James, do you have one that comes to mind?
Um, I would like to see The Boy and the Heron win, and I think that it probably will. The only thing that would keep it from winning is that it's a little, well, it's weird. And it's kind of it's really out there and kind of esoteric. And the Academy doesn't always appreciate that. I like weird stuff. Weirder the better. But but I still think it will win. I liked Robot Dreams, and I liked Spider-Man, and I live with a 9-year-old, so I've seen all of these, some of them multiple times. Um, so your Haunted Mansion reference, Edwin, yeah, good, lucky you. Um, but yeah, but I think Boy and the Heron should win, and I think that it will win.
Edwin, you're thinking?
Well, first I want to say that this category is a sham because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is not
Yes,
nominated,
thank you,
and
thank you.
it was
Yes,
one of the best surprises of last year, and
top 5.
it's one of these, you know, Seth Rogen was on the script. It's one of these things you're seeing in pop culture, these properties that guys our age or women our age liked as a kid, they're able to kind of revisit them. Same with Barbie. I think that's why Barbie is great, is that um it's just exciting. People from from Gen X and Gen Y are able to step in and give it a fresh spin. But yeah, I'm baffled that that's not in this category.
I,
But
I I forgot about that, but yes, you're 100% right. That should win, and it
A
should
writing
be
category.
celebrated by everyone.
it should be a write-in. But
Yeah.
so Boy and the Heron, great film, weird. It's Miyazaki's last film. It would be a great way to honor him, but the Academy has only given him, he's only won 1 Oscar, and I just don't think they get him. So I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to win, which is it's a good movie. It's a little exhausting. It's part one, and they don't tell you it's part one. Um, the in Into the Spider-Verse, its predecessor one already. So I think this is like a Toy Story 2 situation where they're just, I don't know. I'm kind of upset that Boy and the Heron's not going to win, honestly.
Adapted screenplay, Edwin.
Adapted screenplay. Let's see. So this is an interesting category because I think it was Oppenheimer's for the taking, but that's when people presumed Barbie was going to be in the original screenplay side. And I think now that they're both in adapted, they're going to split the vote and American Fiction is going to win. It's been picking up a lot of awards recently. It's probably the only place that it can win. And it's a good movie. It's not my favorite of the year. It's probably in my top 40 maybe, but I mean that, I gave it a B plus. I think it has a lot to offer. I I mean I would love to see Barbie win. I think if it was an original, I think it would have won. So I think it's kind of a shame that it's being, stuck here. So yeah, I think Barbie should win. American Fiction will win.
And James, you're thinking?
I think American Fiction will win too. And yeah, I think it's clever and it's kind of quirky and it's has a lot to say and it kind of takes down some institutions and whatnot. And I think people get a kick out of it. Um and for the reasons Edwin said too, like the whole, Barbenheimer thing of the whole summer, like, people back and forth, which is better, blah blah blah. Two of them in the same category like this, I think it'll go somewhere else. So yeah, I'm going with American Fiction for this one.
Now, I have a question that I should know, and maybe some other people would be interested as well. But what's actually the difference between adapted versus original screenplay?
Adapted means, so just as an example, it was a book first.
Right.
Or it was based on a TV show or something like that. The ideas were kind of already there, and then original is just like, right out of someone's brain and to the screen.
Okay, gotcha. So since we're talking about original, out of those five, what do you think is worthy of the win?
This is a tough one for me. Um, so let me kind of reverse it. I definitely don't think that May December should win, and I definitely don't think that Maestro should win. And I don't think that either will. And I don't think Past Lives will win, even though I want it to, which brings us to Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers. And out of those two, I would rather see The Holdovers win 100%, but I kind of think Anatomy of a Fall will win.
Edwin?
I I agree. I think Anatomy of a Fall is going to win. It's nominated in too many big categories to go home empty, I think. And yeah, I wish it was Holdovers, but even more than that, I wish it was Past Lives. I think I'm as we get into the bigger categories, I think our mutual love for this wonderful film will shine. We've kind of, James and I have kind of committed to going door to door to convert the masses to see this lovely film. And yeah, it's kind of cool that it's nominated. Honestly, it's just kind of one of those.
Yeah,
It's such a small, lovely film that you kind of can't believe it got this much attention. So it is one of those cases where being nominated is kind of a victory.
yeah. We saw Past Lives at a critics screening almost a year ago, I think. It
Yeah,
wasn't long after
it's a
last
while
year's
back.
Oscars, and we were both just like, "Whoa, now that's a movie."
Yeah, it's up there.
And it stayed. I think I gave it my number two spot
Mhm.
this
Same.
year. Just loved it. But I don't think it'll win anything, but I'm glad its name is out there, and I hope that people go and see it just because of that.
And that's
Sure.
funny because that's a film that, as I thought more about it, it grew on me. Even thinking about it now, it grew on me.
Mhm.
And it so ties into the next category, which finally, I know most of these films, if not all of them. What's interesting, guys, is I'm looking at the films and I see Rotten Tomatoes gave them all, very high ratings, but also audiences for the most part, gave them high ratings. And that ties into the category, which I know most of these folks in, actor in a supporting role. And I'll hear what you say and then I'll give my 2 cents. But James?
Well, I think Robert Downey Jr. is going to win. Um, and I just, I don't even know what else there is to say about it. I think like I said before, I have my issues with Oppenheimer, but um, none of them are really because of acting or technical aspects and stuff. Um, personally, I like it when Robert De Niro wins stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I really enjoyed Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. But I think Robert Downey Jr. is a shoe-in for it.
Edwin?
Yeah. The narrative is going to result in Robert Downey Jr. winning. I think it's just kind of not that he languished in Marvel land, but he certainly put in his time, and now he's out of that, and he's in quote unquote real movies again. Even though I do love Marvel movies, and he is quite good. He is quite good in this, but I didn't put him on a single ballot during our SEFCA or FCA stuff, so. But I did put Mark Ruffalo on there, and I did put Ryan Gosling on there, and I did put De Niro on there. I mean, they're all excellent. Yeah, I would love to see De Niro get another one. I think it's one of his better later career ones. But I also thought he should have been nominated for The Irishman as well. And so, people kind of write him off as not making good movies anymore, and I think they're just not paying attention. So, but yeah, I would if I was the giver of the awards, I would want Ryan Gosling or Mark Ruffalo to win, because it would be a first for both of them. But yeah, I mean, Ruffalo is just playing the ultimate cad in Poor Things. He is just ridiculous. He is just chewing the scenery and twisting his mustache and doing weird dances. I just loved it. So I would love to see Mark Ruffalo win, but
And
he
it's so
won't.
different than anything else I've ever seen him in. I thought he was so good in that. And
Mhm.
also, I'm just a big Sterling K. Brown, fan, so he's
He's
not going
good.
to win it. But I like his work. Supporting actress, a choice on that, James?
Um, let's see here. Oh, yeah. So for me, this is another one of those, like if Divine Joy Randolph doesn't win and just like done with the whole thing. Uh, I mean, I say that about 50 things every year, but
Well, then I won't have you on the show next year then because you
yeah, because I'll be
disqualified.
done. I've
That's
quit.
a
Yeah, this
way.
is it. He's
That's a way
done.
to get out.
Uh, I think that she will win. She's just fantastic in The Holdovers. And the other nominees, like, Emily Blunt, like, was she even in Oppenheimer? I don't know. I barely even remember her in it. And The Color Purple, I just didn't care for.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
America Ferrera is great in Barbie, but like, she's funny and she's good. It's just not an Oscar performance, I don't think. It's not an Oscar role. Let's put it that way. And then, and everybody loves Jodie Foster, but like Nyad was just, you know, okay. But uh Divine Joy Randolph, just hilarious and awesome just all the way around.
You
And
agree, Edwin?
100%. Yeah, I was not expecting her to get this much attention, but I'm so happy she did. And it does seem like a sure thing. If I was if I was going to put money on one category, it would be this one for Divine Joy Randolph. She's just run the table. She's that good. She deserves it. I knew I'd seen her before, and then it took writing the review and looking her up on IMDb to realize she's been on she's the cop on Only Murders in the Building. I don't know if you've
yeah,
been watching that.
I did the same thing. Yeah, same situation for me.
And she was great on that too. And I was like, wow, and this is gonna propel her forward. And I'm excited to see her career blossom even more.
Actor in a leading role, Edwin. Who do you see taking it?
Um, this is another one that I think is gonna be, kind of could be a good surprise come Sunday night. I think it was between Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. Um, I think Jeffrey Wright deserves a nomination. Bradley Cooper, whatever. Coleman Domingo, he's fine. I like him as an actor. I don't think he deserved. There's a lot of other actors deserve that, but I think Cillian Murphy is going to win. I think Paul Giamatti should win. I think If The Holdovers won all the acting awards, I would not be upset because I think it's that good of an acting on. I was putting that up for tops of my ensemble lists, and Giamatti's been terrific for decades, and he's never won. And this movie it's a juggernaut. I think I saw that it's been running like 27 weeks in a Boston theater, and it set some record, and people love it. I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and I would, I'd watch it again tonight. And a lot of it's because of Paul Giamatti's performance.
Great job. Actress in a leading role.
Oh, well, I'm
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
get James.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgot. Yeah.
I I agree. It's between Murphy and Giamatti. Um, but I'm gonna go with Giamatti. Like I just have to. Um, I did not I didn't expect to dislike The Holdovers, but I didn't expect to love it. And I loved it.
Mhm.
And I should have known. I mean, I've always enjoyed Paul Giamatti, you know?
Right.
So like, it's just I don't know what I was thinking, but I loved it and he's amazing and I want him to win and I think that he will. That's where my money's at. It's on Giamatti.
And in terms of the actress in a leading role, I'll start off with James.
I think it's Lily Gladstone. I don't think there's any question. Um, there's some great performances on here. Emma Stone, obviously. Um, well, really, that's kind of the only other great one. Um, but yeah, it's Lily Gladstone all the way. I don't think there's any question.
Edwin, your call.
Yeah, I think Lily Gladstone should win and will win, but I'm not going to be surprised if Emma Stone wins. It's pretty close, and but she's already won. This could be the only award that Killers of the Flower Moon gets. You've got this opportunity to award this great film about indigenous people by by awarding a great performance by an indigenous performer. I think if she doesn't win, it's a huge missed opportunity. And then you're just, you know, giving a very good actress in Emma Stone, probably giving her best performance ever. But it'd be a second win. So like, why not um, honor what I think is the stronger, more difficult performance with Lily Gladstone?
And in the category of directing, I know you guys are upset, but you can't nominate the director of Barbie because she's not in that category, which is, everybody talks about it, surprise. Was that a surprise to you, by the way, Edwin, that she didn't get nominated?
A little bit, just because Barbie was the box office champ last year and had got such great reviews, and um I thought she had a shot. Yeah, I thought they would do like another populist pick. And so some of these, I'd say two of these finalists I somewhat strongly disagree with. Um and um I mean, there's other snubs I think that belong on this list too, but yeah, I Barbie did so many things well. I do think it deserves more than what it got.
And what do you disagree with on that list?
Um, I don't think Justine Triet should be in here. I think Anatomy of a Fall, I think its strength is in writing. I don't think it's in directing. It's kind of a schlocky looking film, honestly. There's a lot
Kind
of
of bland,
handheld stuff.
kind of bland
Yeah.
looking.
And
Good
her,
story, but it's
yeah,
it's bland. It's,
I
it's
don't think I don't think that's its strength. Yeah. So it's kind of strange that she's up for it. Maybe that's the Academy's like, oh, well, we nominated a woman. What more do you want from us, type of
well, then why
thing.
not Greta?
Yeah. Yeah. Who I think was
Good point.
working at
So
a higher level. Yeah. And then Jonathan Glazer, I'm just not a fan of the Zone of Interest. I feel like, if you and it's the Holocaust is a subject that I think requires, I don't want to say more imagination, but just more heart maybe. And this was just such a blunt, shovel to the head experience for 2 hours. I just got tired of it really quickly, but it got great reviews and people love important topics. So here it is.
So in that category, who do you think is going to win it?
This is Christopher Nolan all the way. And he did a great job, but I think this is one of the last times we're going to have to honor Martin Scorsese at this level. And I mean, I hope he lives forever. I hope he outlives all of us, but the reality is he probably has 3 features left in him. I don't know. He's 80, I think now, right? And this is a great film. I think I would love to see Scorsese pull the upset, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
And James, you're thinking?
Yep, I agree. I think Nolan's going to win, but I want Marty to win. I mean, Martin Scorsese is a big reason why I, became like a film nerd. The first Oscars I remember, I don't think it's the first one I watched, but the first one I was paying attention to was when Goodfellas, or when it was Joe Pesci won
Yep.
For whatever, 1990 or whatever that was. And then I just tracked down everything. I went to the video store and watched everything. And
Right.
So I like to see when he gets his due, and he doesn't get it very often. But I think the Oppenheimer fever is too great, and I think Nolan is gonna win.
And finally, guys, the last category, and it's almost like the Oscars in that the show is running longer than I thought it would, so I apologize for that.
No
But
problem.
in this category, Best Picture, James, who do you see taking it?
Oppenheimer. And
Oppenheimer?
I hate to say it, but I think it is gonna win. I just don't think, I don't know. People are just, it's kind of like, it makes, I'm gonna sound like a jerk. I'm gonna make it sound like I'm insulting, but it's the kind of movie that makes people think that they're smart. And I think that's one of Nolan's downfalls, is he thinks he's a lot smarter than he is. Um, and I think Oppenheimer has duped a lot of people. Um, it's good. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but if it wasn't on, if it wasn't nominated in any of these categories, I'd be fine with that too. Make room for something else.
If it
Um,
wasn't, if you didn't say Oppenheimer's going to win it, which would be your favorite, or which would be your personal choice in that
my
list?
personal choice is Past Lives off of this
Okay.
list. But my Past Lives is my second favorite movie of the year. My first favorite movie of the year, which is Monster, is not anywhere on this list. It should at least be in the directing category, I think, if not the
And writing, yeah,
screenplay. Um,
performances, yeah, everything.
and there was some great, I forget his name, but the teacher from Monster should be best supporting actor, or nominated. Um, but out of this list, working with what we're given, I want Past Lives to win, but I don't think there's a chance. But I didn't think Parasite was going to win either. And that movie is just, on top of near the top of my all-time list. Uh, and I didn't see that happening either. So who knows?
Edwin, last to you, the list will say, who do you think is going to win? And then if you had a call, who would you pick?
Well, like a good soldier, I'm in lockstep with James. So yeah, I think this is Oppenheimer for sure. This is another one where, well, it would be hilarious if Barbie won. I think there's
I would cheer. I would clap and cheer if Barbie
yeah,
won. Yeah.
that would be one of the most amazing upsets and make a lot of people happy, I think.
Mhm.
And a lot, and it would make the right people angry too, and
Yeah.
which would be hilarious as well. But and yeah, I'm with James too. Past Lives should win out of these. My number one film from last year was Michael Mann's Ferrari, and it's not nominated anywhere. So I can't, uh, I guess ride ends really aren't a thing, so you couldn't really get that going. But yeah, Past Lives was just, I am, one, I, again, we saw it so early last year. I knew it was top 5 for me. And as what happens with us is you see more films as they come out. You see these films you've been looking forward to seeing all year long, like Killers of the Flower Moon, or, you know, new Wes Anderson, or whatever it is. And so these films from March and April get kind of buried, and you kind of start to underrate them because you've got this new toy in front of you. And so you're like, so for me, it was, oh, well, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, and maybe even The Holdovers are above Past Lives. But I was watching every year, this critic David Ehrlich does a top 25 video countdown, which I highly recommend watching. And I forget where Past Lives was on his list, but when those clips came up, I started crying because that movie has such an emotional hold on me. Seen in the theater, it was one of the few that's made me cry, and I started tearing up, and I realized, no, like, I'm underrating this film. Like, this is my number two. Like, I can't deny. And it just brought me back to that moment when we were in that critic screen, and how perfect that viewing experience was, and how moved we were by it. So I was glad to be reminded of how much I love that film without even seeing it again. It was just images from it that just brought me right back. So yeah, Past Lives all the way.
That 25 list, where do people find that?
It's you can probably find it on YouTube or Vimeo, but it's yeah, David Ehrlich's top 25 countdown of 2023, something to that effect. But I can send you that link if you want to share it.
And I just want to, by the way, thank the two of you for being my guests on this special edition of Blaine's World webcast. And James, especially a treat to see you, because we probably won't see you next year then. You know,
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
You're gonna be out of the business, you know. But anyway, it was really cool having you guys with me. So thank you very much. One last thing I should ask, getting away from the theme of the show, and that's the fact that I love reading the reviews from you guys. And so talk about, if people want to not only hear you tonight, but if they want to see some of your reviews, what's best bet for finding them?
Yeah, head over to ashevillemovies.com is the main site. But you know, James has a lot of great stuff at the Daily Orca, and so we kind of combine forces on that and put it all together with our newsletter, which you can get through our Substack, ashevillemovies.substack.com, or through our Patreon, patreon.com/ashevillemovies. But yeah, we got a lot going on. We got a lot of reviews coming out.
Our Patreon and Substack has like exclusive stuff too, that are, you know, exclusive to those platforms. So for example, we're this whole year we're doing watching movies from 1984, the year 1984, because Edwin turned 40, born in 1984. So we're going through these blind spots that we both have from movies from 1984, and then we both watch them, and then we have like a conversation style review about them. What was the last one we did? Night of the Comet, I think.
Night of the Comet, yeah.
And we're about to do Brother from Another Planet.
Okay, cool. But again, just encourage people to check into this stuff, because your reviews, I'm not just saying because on the show now, but they're really good, you know, so I really enjoy them. And so thank you for sharing all that you do. And hopefully we'll bump into you sometime at the movies or some other place. And so thanks again, guys. And I also thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And I hope everybody gets to see the Oscars and have a good time. And I'm excited about you, but I like the fact that Kimmel's going to be doing it. I think that should be kind of cool. Do you like Kimmel?
He's okay. Yeah,
he's fine. I mean, the Oscar host is not, it's not that important to me. I just want to,
well, true,
yeah, just read a list. You know, I'd be fine probably.
Yeah, but yet when they did that, you know, just read the list, I didn't find the shows very interesting, and I still miss, you know, the Billy Crystal or the opening monologue or
I was gonna say,
something,
I want to see Jack Palance do one-arm push-ups. That's what I miss.
or Bob Hope, you know, whatever. Dates me a little bit. Thanks, guys. This was great. Stay with me after I sign off, but I'll speak to you soon. Thanks.